Okay, we're back, and we'll be continuing on this programming tutorial, and now we're going to start actually writing some code. So, if you didn't download this or download this file yet, you can do so. Just should be in the link in the description. So just download the file and open it up in VS Code. If you want, you can also just copy this line by line. It's not too much to write, and at this point you don't have to worry about what any of this means. We're just going to focus on this area here, specifically these blank spaces, because that's where our code is going to run. It's going to run in this blank space. So we have our main function. Main functions in C++ always end up being ran first. Anything else, or I guess whatever. So whatever's your first line in your main function is going to be the first thing to be run, basically. Okay, so I guess usually what people write for their first program is, I guess people call it hello world. So the idea is we want to print to the command line hello world. So in C++, the way this is done is by writing cout, two brackets like this, and then in quotes, hello world. And then endl is going to break the line for us. So to break down what this is doing, basically, so in most programming languages, you're going to have a string, which is basically a representation of letters or words, and that's what we have here, and that usually goes in between double quotes. So hello world in between double quotes, and then in C++ specifically, this cout and these two less than signs, that's going to print hello world onto our console. So we can test that to see that that works by writing out this command that we wrote previously, which is g++ main.cpp -o main.o. And then to run that, remember, we do just main.o. Okay, that didn't do what we wanted it to. Now this is going to be a problem that you're going to run into a lot, and you'll be, why didn't this run? And the problem is because we did not save our file. So if you're on Mac OS, Command S will save your file. If you're on Windows or Linux, Control S will save your file. Now we can do g++ main.cpp and main.o, and as you can see here, hello world. Another thing, you can ask any questions in the comments, and I will respond to them as soon as I can. And in addition to that, if it warrants a video, then I will make a kind of bonus video, or maybe amend the what I have planned for this tutorial. So okay, so we have hello world. So basically all of our code is going to be kind of organized into lines. So we'll have lines of code, each is kind of a statement. So basically we have our statement here that's printing out hello world, and that's cool. I guess we can, another thing, there's a special kind of statement. I guess this is important to know at first. So this is called a comment. So a comment is something that gets totally disregarded when your code is being compiled. So you can write whatever you want in the comment, like hello world, and it doesn't change the operation at all. So comments are good for explaining in English what your code's doing if it's kind of confusing. In this case it's not, but either way we could say print hello world. But maybe some place where it would be useful is we could say start of our code, and down here we can say end of our code. So stuff like that. Another fun thing with comments is you can do something like this, and you can do a block comment. So line 1, line 2. So that's cool. And all of that is helpful, especially if you want to like maybe make a line of code not run. You could comment the line of code out. So if we don't want to print hello world, you can just comment that out. So actually, why don't we leave that like that? I'm going to get into something called variables. Variables are really important in programming. So a variable is a way to store information that you're going to want to use later. It's basically essentially what it is all summed up. So variables have types. Types are really important. So you probably in the future you'll come across a language where types aren't so important, like JavaScript or Python. Types aren't super important in those languages, but in C++, types are really important, and actually, whenever you make a variable, generally you need to say what type that variable is, and it needs to stick to that type for the entire existence of the variable. So, basic types. We will start with our integer type. So, integer is the same thing it means in math, so it's any non-decimal number. Can be positive or negative, so we can call it int x. So x is the name. We can call it my int. We can call it whatever we want. The name doesn't matter. We just don't want duplicate names because that would overwrite the previous one. It's kind of complicated. So, and it's generally bad practice. So this can be any number. This can be 10. This can be 15. It can't be 1.5. Well, it can, but it would just save that as 1. It would not. It would just drop the decimal. So we can call int myint 10. So next type. What if we want a decimal? So we can do. So generally, what you would use is a double, and we can call it my double, and we can set that equal to 1.5 this time, and this will save the one. This will save the decimal. So what double stands for is double precision floating point number. And the reason for this is because we also have the float, but you generally won't ever use that, and a float is single precision floating point number. So when we realized we needed more precision, and we had computers that could handle the extra precision, then we started using double. I'm honestly not 100% sure what the real reason is behind that, but I'm sure it's something like that. Okay, so we have our double. We also have a char. So char is short for character, and some people say char, I guess. Character maybe is an easy way to say it. So we can do it my character equals any character. And characters are denoted using single quotes instead of a string as we had before where we use double quotes. So we can just make this A. It's the first letter of the alphabet. And I think those are the basic things that you're going to need for now. I think that covers everything. But for this part in the tutorial, we're going to stick to numbers. So we don't really need to worry about this char. So let's test out our printing to command line skills and print out what these variables we just made. So instead of putting this string, this hello world here, we can just type in our variable, and hopefully this will print 10. Yep, and as you can see here, we've got a 10. And you can also chain these things, so we could do 10 my double my car, kind of like that. And you get all of these. See, there's no spaces. You have to put the spaces in yourself, but you get the point. And just in case I wasn't clear before, this end L at the end puts a line break. So say if we did a end L here, then we would end up with a break between the 10, 1.5, and A. Okay, cool. So we have that. Now let's look at arithmetic operators. So you can do math in C++ and pretty much every major programming language you can do math and arithmetic with. So let's get rid of that for now, and let's make let's make some more ints. So let's make A equals actually let's do a lowercase a equals 5, and int b equals, let's do something fun here. So let's name it after my int. So what this is going to do is it's going to take the current value of my int, which is 10, and store it into b. So that's something that you might end up using a few times. For example, what if we want to know what my int used to be, but we need to change my int sometime in the future? So that's when you would use that. So we have these two things, and let's say we want C to be the result of adding them. So simply all you have to do is just do A plus B. So int C equals A plus B. We have other operators, pretty much any kind of, well, pretty much the big four. So addition, subtraction, multiplication, division you have. So A minus B would go into D, and E, A. So for times, you're gonna use this asterisk. It's kind of like a dot or a times, or a kind of complicated time symbol, but asterisk is pretty commonly used instead of an X because say we had a variable that was an X, then that would lead to some weird stuff. And then at the same point, we can do division by doing the slash sign like that. So that's how we do division. And if we want to test all of this, we can just do A, C out. Actually, we already did A and B. We'll do C. We can copy and paste. D, E, yeah, stuff like that. And this will all work as expected. Okay, fun. Okay, so other thing here that I want to show very quickly, one more operator actually. So there's something called the modulus operator. So basically what modulus does is it gives you the remainder of division. So it might not really make sense why you would want that unless you have a math background, but when we get into more advanced videos, maybe not in these initial 6, you'll end up needing it, but I think it's good to just be aware of it in case something comes up where you'd think it would be helpful. So what modulus does is we have our int g, and that will be equal a, and then the percent sign b. So that's going to give the remainder of a divided by b. So in this case, actually, let's just do 10 divided by 6. So that should give us a remainder of 4. Yeah, sorry about that one. My quick math skills are not the greatest at 3:30 in the morning. So we can print out our g after we compile, and we have 4. Okay, perfect. So that's all fun. But another cool thing, I guess, which I think would be good to cover here, is how to take input from the user. So in C++, we have cout to send output to the command line. Cin we use to take input from the command line. So let's say we want to take in 2 integer values from the user, A and B. So we'll reuse those here. So after declaring a variable, you can reset it. So we can just say A equals 7 here, or B equals 12, and it doesn't matter. They can be reset generally with no problem. And that property is called mutability. So these variables are mutable. You can change their value. Okay, cool. So we have these variables. We can change their value. What if we want to change their value to something the user inputs? So let's prompt the user to add, or input 2 numbers to add. So we can say enter a number to add, and then we would use the cin operator. So cin, and then this time you change it to the opposite symbol, and you would do cin into a, and then that's going to take the user's input and store it into a, and then we can do cout again, enter, another number to add, and then we can do cnb. Okay, cool. And then let's do the sum. So we can do cout, and we can do a combination of these strings and our variables. So we can say, first, let's take that value of c we had before, c equals a plus b, so that's going to add a and b, store that into c, and we can say the sum of a, we need this always, and is, okay, cool. So notice that I'm adding spaces in between here. The spaces won't be added automatically, so you need to type the spaces if you want spaces to appear there. Okay, so let's see what this does real quick before we wrap up this video. So compile it, and I forgot to hit Command S. That's gonna happen a lot. Okay, cool. So we get here, enter a number to add, 5 and 2, and the sum of 5 and 2 is 7. Cool, so we have that here. So it's fun. So that's fun when you finally get a program that does something that changes when the input changes. So I guess before the next video, if you want to try to change this so it can do addition, or sorry, we already did addition. What if you could change it to do like a product or a division, or maybe even modulus? Just experiment with that. And in the next video, we're going to get into functions. So yeah, any questions, leave them in the comments, and thanks for watching. See you in the next one.